Video games.
Video games?
Video games?
Video games?
We all love them, but some we hate with a fiery passion
and want them to burn into the ground, never to return from the depths of which they came ever again.
And why is that? Games like Elden Ring, Black Myth Wukong, Palworld, Apex Legends, and many others were instant successes for many different reasons. Let's take a look at a few examples and see how we can learn from that. Apex Legends was one of the most unique, and it came completely out of nowhere, and the Battle Royale scene was already pretty saturated, I would say, but not overly saturated yet. There was still room to grow, but Apex not only shook things up by making it a hero-based shooter, no, their marketing was genius, which was essentially nothing. Do you remember? This game just kind of came out of nowhere. They just paid streamers to play it, which is of course a massive risk, but it paid off. Other games like Elden Ring or Black Myth Wukong are not only games that are peak in their respective genre, they also had a foundation built from games and genres that people already love. Compile that with the writings of George R.R. Martin and the famous fabled Tale of the Monkey King, you're clearly in for a recipe for greatness. Palworld is another one that's interesting in that, to keep it simple, it gave us a different genre of Pokemon game, letting us use them in ways we only could have ever imagined, while also adding guns to the mix.
Guns?
But it kind of shook things up in a beloved IP type that gave us what we always wanted. All of these and many more have a lot in common, which is that the devs are loving what they're creating. Not to say that the devs of failed games don't, but I would argue it's more about their paycheck than the love of creating. Especially couple that with deadlines and etc. from the corporate conglomerate that the gaming industry has become.
Conglomeration, that's what I said!
But what we can also extract from that is that success can be different in different forms. Now, let's take a game like Concord, for example. You expected this, huh? I'm sure you have all heard by now that this game is a monumental failure. I'm here to ask the question, why? My good friend the Act Man made some very good points in his recent video.
Even if this came out before Overwatch, it would have felt immediately outdated after Overwatch came out. Overwatch won. Concord did nothing to differentiate itself from its competitors.
But maybe I'm missing key elements of giving a crap about things like this.
If I don't like the look, feel, or sound of these characters, then there's no reason for anybody to play it.
Now, don't get me wrong, character design is what can help sell games like this, for sure, but it shouldn't be the only thing you care about. And to be clear, even if you do, it's a new IP, so we gotta get to know these characters first. Now, I wanna say that I'm not by any means defending this game. Not only did I not play it, but I barely even heard of it, and again, it's kinda because their marketing sucks. But I mean, do we really only care that the design is peak? Again, yes, they are bad, or at least not amazing, but you did just say this.
He's literally called a trash dispenser. He's a fucking trash can.
And then you're confused by this.
What do you think the fucking rice cooker guy does? Did you guess that he's a robot that shoots fucking vacuum cleaners?
Oh, a trash can with the ability to vacuum? Yes, I did. Everyone is acting like they want cool looking characters, yet most people I've seen play games with a character creator, you can make them look like anything you want, make them look as cool as you want. And yet they make them look like this, or this, or this.
That is cool.
So that's not a good excuse. I mean, we can at the very least compare something like Concord to another hero shooter, and while yes, some characters in Overwatch are cool looking, a lot of the cool factor stems from actually playing with them and getting into their personalities, which yes, Concord did lack, but I mean, look at Winston from Overwatch. He's quite literally just a big brain monkey.
Monkeys.
And Cassidy is just a stereotypical old Western guy. Sorry, Matt Mercer, I love you so much. But really though, it's not like these designs are 10 out of 10s, they're also pretty basic. My point is, both sides leave more to be desired. Talking about character design being a big flaw in a game about gunplay, mechanics, etc. remind me of the old days where people would talk about graphics and how something had bad graphics, it was a bad game, or new graphics were good and so it's gonna be good. And back then in the early 2000s, this might have been true. Not always, though. But it was also something of limitation, so everything that came out after something else typically did have quote-unquote better graphics, but nowadays it's mostly a design choice rather than a product of limitation. And I know I'm going on a bit of a side tangent here, but guys, gameplay matters. It's not just about how pretty it is. Now, obviously, it is an art form, so you want your game to look good. But gameplay still matters, guys. I feel like we've lost this for some reason. Most people only care about graphics or if something looks cool or good or whatever, or they say they do. Gameplay still matters, guys.
You can't tell me that gameplay has more emotional resonance than a good cutscene.
Maybe not, but it still matters. I saw some people mention that the cel-shaded graphics in Spectre Divide were bad. But am I wrong in saying that who the heck cares? It looks fine, it's just a design choice. I know I already mentioned it, but I want to reiterate, I do not think that this game was peak design. I think it was a culmination of a bunch of different things as to why it failed, and I do think that the designs are pretty poor. But I don't think that they were the main reason, like everyone will have you believe, that they were just so bad that that's why we're not playing the game. That is ridiculous, and if that is the case, you need to find a new hobby. And I understand that it might not be good in terms of the whole design as a whole, and to be honest, most of the color schemes for this game were just awful. Is it good? I don't know, but is it the reason that the game failed? Probably not. It's a culmination of a bunch of different things. I mean, some of the things are so nitpicky. People like Asmongold mentioned that one of the reasons it's failing, or it did fail, was because they put pronouns on a robot. I mean, dude, Claptrap from Borderlands is a he. GLaDOS from Portal is a she. Mega Man is a man. Is he? I mean, what are we doing? What are you talking about? Orisa from Overwatch is a she. Like, these are all robots that you've definitely played that have pronouns. What are you talking about, dude? Is this really a point of contention for you? Going back to character design for just a second, I want to mention this because this is something that I appreciate so much. In Rainbow Six Siege, there's a character named Frost, and her gadget is a welcome mat, which is essentially like a bear trap, right? If you notice, her jacket is shaped in a particular way. Her jacket collar comes up like this, entrapping her head in what looks like a bear trap. Peak design, folks. Look, we've talked about marketing and design, and there are definitely plenty of other reasons why most games fail, but I personally think that we're living in such an oversaturated state right now. Let me preface this with I typically mean that we are in an oversaturated market of games that want to compete with your time. So the multiplayers and the live service games. The single player games typically do pretty well, however, so many live service and multiplayer games want to suck every single moment and every single second of our day that we just don't have time for them all. So let's be honest, some of them are forced to be bad, while some of them are actually bad. Even the ones that are in the top 25, someone has to be the bottom 5 with a dying player base. Something like New World started off to be in the contending with other MMOs, but it fell short of in-game content, and now everyone's gone. It's basically dead in the water with only 3,000 players left. You can place a little blame on battle passes requiring people to forcefully play their game day in and day out, but at the end of the day, a battle royale that's just basically a Fortnite clone will fall because Fortnite still exists and it's still thriving. It really's got to shake things up or be something so different that it takes some of those players away and keeps their attention, but we can't have 10 popular battle royales. You get about 4. Fortnite, Apex Legends, PUBG, and Warzone. That's about it. But it's not all about shaking things up, because a game like Spellbreak or even Realm Royale flopped pretty fast despite both of them being very fun and completely unique. Let me take a quick second to talk about Spellbreak for those who don't know what it is. Spellbreak was a very unique style of battle royale. Instead of using traditional gunplay, players were mages that casted spells. These spells followed 6 different element types: fire, ice, wind, poison, stone, and lightning. I think that was all of them. However, what was even more interesting is that you could also combo these spells with other spells. For example, if you saw an ice spell, you could shoot a fireball at it and create a steam effect, which acted essentially as a smoke grenade from other games. Or if you shot a fireball at a poison cloud, it would create a dragon fire explosion, or a lightning bolt into a wind tornado to make it a larger, electrifying tornado, pulling enemies into the center and doing damage over time. This is what made the game so unique and interesting to me, but unfortunately they went into making it a battle royale, competing with other games like Fortnite. While it was completely different than Fortnite, even being in such a saturated market is kind of my point. This game could have easily succeeded if they moved its focus from Battle Royale to something like a cooperative roguelike experience, something like Risk of Rain 2 or Gunfire Reborn. That being said, a game like Concord has to compete with Apex Legends, Overwatch 2, Marvel Rivals, Valorant, Paladins, and many more in that genre of hero-based shooters. So of course it was a monumental failure, for other reasons too, but this one being one of the main ones in my honest opinion. And a lot of those are even free, and Concord had that paywall behind it, which I don't often think is a bad thing, but when you're already competing for people's time, and the other games that are thriving have a much lower barrier to entry, meaning free to play, then most people are going to choose theirs first, even if yours might be better. We as the consumer don't know that yet, and haven't had that rapport. The gaming market being oversaturated is such a funny thing to me, because growing up in the 90s and 2000s, it felt like most companies were so much smaller and making games out of passion projects and games that they would want to play. Now it's just a huge market for corporate greed conglomerates who are just out of touch, making these teams work with a massive budget and expecting a 10x return. It reminds me a lot of the US in the 1800s during the gold rush. People from all over the land heard about all this gold that they can dig and pan for, and it became very saturated very quickly, and nobody really made out with any gold. The shovel salesmen, on the other hand, people who sold shovels to those people, are the ones who notoriously made out better than anyone actually digging for gold. The game companies are the people looking for the gold. All of these game companies think that their game is the one that will succeed, and some will, but most won't nowadays. But no matter who does and doesn't, the new shovel salesmen will be the ones who will always do just fine. Who are the new shovel salesmen? The content creators, the streamers, the YouTubers. They're the ones capitalizing on all these games. Every new release is another opportunity to make content, generate hype, or tear a game apart. They make money whether the game succeeds or fails, just like the shovel salesman made money whether or not their customers found gold. So if a game does bad, you can scream that it's woke, or if a game does really well, you can still complain that it has clipping in the clothing.
That makes it so clothing does not always clip through itself.
It doesn't matter, because you're the shovel salesman. So we've went over that the problem is being oversaturated. So what can you do? Should you just be unique all the time? Not always, because sometimes being unique isn't even enough. One of my favorite multiplayer games of all time was a game called Quantum League. In summary, it was a first-person shooter with time loop mechanics. You would play one round as your first character, and then round 2 would be played by you alongside the replay of you from round 1, so essentially you are your own teammate watching the first round unfold in front of you. The twist is, let's say you lost the first round. You can then go and eliminate the opponent's replay from round 1, saving your round 1 self. And if all of that sounds confusing, it's because it definitely was. But it was so fun once you understood the concept. And I truly believe it was one of the most unique FPS games out there ever, but it was way ahead of its time and too advanced for most people's FPS brain. So unfortunately, they had to shut it down due to no players. This is definitely an oversaturation thing, but it's also from being too unique that many people didn't even understand the concept, so instead opted to go back to Fortnite or COD, which is understandable. In conclusion, I don't really think that there's much that can be done. Me personally, I just wish that games were made by people that wanted to play their games. And game devs just had more control over what it is, but it's become such a business with all these big profit gains from these corporations that it is what it is. It's a business now. People gotta make money. A lot of times their games fail and suffer because of it. And because of these types of things and being out of touch, we gotta say goodbye to games with potential like Anthem, Spellbreak, Redfall, Suicide Squad, Concord, Lawbreakers. A big reason is due to oversaturation, and sometimes the games are just bad and out of touch. I can only hope that one day the devs get out of this ecosystem of how much money can my game make and get back to the roots of I can't wait to share this game with the world and play alongside them. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more content like this. This has been HP, and remember, as long as you got me, you'll always have 1 HP. See you guys.